I think sometimes we are immune to death. I think the younger generations are more comfortably numb to it, that they see it happen so much.
That's what it's about, empowering individuals to make a difference.
But even though as a group they may be scoring low, some still make it out. Some still become doctors, and lawyers, and teachers, and dentists, and police officers, and accountants. How did they do it?
Basically, I'm out tonight talking about my film, Kansas City Murder Factory. This film is a really deep film. It took me 2.5 years of my life to make, over 200 hours of footage, interviews with people, with homicide victims, with their family members, with law enforcement, even the mayor's in there. But what I'm doing is peeling back the layers to why homicide is happening in our city, looking at social issues like collapse of a school system over 3 generations and collapse in education, kind of what void that left, looking at recidivism, looking at blight in the community, and so how all these different layers combine to create this problem that is happening not only in Kansas City, but other cities as well. So it's an incredible film, it's an inspirational film. It has poetry segments that are phenomenal in between, kind of as this entertainment side, because I didn't want to make it sensational.
For some of you, you know exactly why you're here. This is Fringe Benefits of Education here at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, focused on young men 17 to 24. This is the first Thursday. On the first Thursday, we always invite a guest speaker to come. This day, because of the weather and myself being out of town until yesterday, we got numerous calls asking, are we going to cancel tonight? I said, unless the speaker tells me he doesn't want to come and the college cancels evening classes, we're going to meet. That's what we do. Every Thursday, whether one person shows up, 2 or 10, we're here except for our holidays. And we don't want to start missing just because it's inconvenient. One of the things that we constantly need to be working on is the fruit of our labor. I had an opportunity this week to act in a role of personal assistant, I called it, to my sister. Her father-in-law passed away, and he was 75 years old. We were originally scheduled to go to the Pro Bowl in Hawaii. We had paid for our tickets, we had done all that, and this Tuesday, before we were supposed to leave, he passed away. We had to call, cancel our plan, lost half of our money, and I then made a flight and flew to Little Rock, where I spent the same amount of time we were going to spend in Hawaii. What I learned in that process of a gentleman who had lived 75 years is that life is about creating a legacy. When you are no longer here and people are sitting around in a room and they're talking about Sam and they're talking about Calvin and they're talking about Rick and they're talking about Gerardo and they're talking about J-Span, what are they saying? What are they saying? Some people had wonderful things to say about this gentleman who grew up in a farm in Little Rock, raised vegetables and hogs, and raised this stuff to give to his neighbors. He had more than he can get. And everybody who walked in there talked about how he grew that stuff and told them, if you want it, come and get it, just don't waste it. That's all you gotta promise me. He'd go hunting, loved to hunt. He hunted, cleaned it, packaged it, and gave it to the neighbors because he knew they were hungry. That's what they remembered about him, in addition to his family. So it made me think how we live in our lives and what are people going to say about us when we're no longer here. Here is a guy who had no more than a 3rd grade education, if you would listen to people tell his story, you would thought he was an engineer or something. He had a work ethic, they said, that was par none. In that community, if you heard the name Car Clue, you knew those boys had a work ethic that was par none. If they started a job, they were going to finish a job, and it was going to be a quality product. If they built it and it wasn't right, they go back and take it down and do it right, and nobody had to tell them. They said that over and over and over again. So you knew it had to be true if people were coming in saying the same thing over and over again. But what I also learned in situations like that, everybody needs somebody they trust and adore who can help them remember where the car keys are, where I put my cell phone, what's the alarm to get in the house, how did I get to this, who called, because those are things that people need in that particular time. So I was glad that I was able to be of service, but it also gives you time to think about, as they talk about, what happens between the sunrise and the sunset.
What can you say after that? It is serious. Like Doc said, we're raising the bar this semester. We either, I call it celebrating and eliminating. We're gonna celebrate the people that do want to change, and we're gonna eliminate the people that don't want change, because all that do is gonna be change or chain. You know, when you change, you can get better. A chain will hold you down. We're not going to do that. This boat can float, because people, it's time to be serious about your life. You look at what's going on over in Egypt, you understand that we live in the times that you better get it together. This guy is about to come up. He's a good friend of mine. So I did several videos for myself, and I met him at Avila University at a TASU thing, and Dr. Snodgrass actually spoke here and talked about it. So, you know, we got this Avila connection going on, and it kind of hooked us up together. And I talked to Doctor about him, and Doctor said, "Right," and she did the research to catch up with him. But I'm gonna let him tell you all he does with no further delay. His might be rolling.
That was, she was talking about Will Smith or somebody. Who was that? That's me? Yes, thank you for having me here, Dr. McDowell, and thank you, Roger, for having me come out and give me the opportunity to show the film and to speak with you guys a little bit about me. And I'll start off with about me and my background. I didn't grow up in Kansas City, I grew up in St. Louis. And went to a desegregated school growing up. Got an opportunity to look at kind of two different cultures, me being from the city of Kansas City, but not necessarily the inner city. I graduated from University City High School in St. Louis, Missouri. That's the same school that Nellie went to. No, we weren't in the same class together, but a really incredible school. And at that time, I was heavily in sports and got an opportunity to get a scholarship to the University of Missouri, Columbia, where I went up there and ran track. So I went down to MU and was really figuring out kind of what I want to do. It was weird because when I first went to school, it was '94, and everything was different. The economic situation in America was different. The thing was business administration, and a lot of people had majors in marketing and things like that. And I said, well, okay, that's kind of, maybe I want to do that. So I switched my major to that, and wasn't feeling it, wasn't going to class, wasn't excited about it. So I said, well, let me switch my major to theater. I knew, I love theater and movies and stuff like that. So I said, well, let's do that. So I did that, and I met my wife during a play called Macbeth, set in the Caribbean, which was an incredible experience. And then I said, well, but I felt that there was something else I wanted to do but wasn't being offered. So I said, well, let's, let me figure out what I want to do. So I took a couple years off and did stand-up and had a good time doing that. Had a chance to open for Ricky Smiley, and so I was doing that, and I was like, well, it's kind of what I want to do, but not exactly what I want to do. So I was still kind of deciding what I wanted to do with my life, and I got a call one day from my cousin Ludacris. He was like, hey, I'm gonna be in town. You want to go out? So he was like, okay, well, we went and hung out with him, and he got his start in radio, so I hung out with him, and we were on this tour bus and whatnot, and he was like, I was at a radio, it was on this bus, and it was like a live remote from these people at the radio station came on, and he said, hey, can you hook my cousin up with an internship or anything? And so I called him the next day, and he was like, yeah, I'll pass your card on to the program director, I'm gonna get back to you. And so I was like, well, yeah, Chris got his start down in Atlanta, on the radio. Maybe that's kind of the avenue I want to go. So I said, well, so I just kept hounding them, and people in the radio industry, you have to hound, or else they're doing like 20 jobs, and it's kind of hard hounding people like that, And I just kept following up, and he was like, every time I called, he wasn't in, or he was in a meeting, or he was this and that. And on my birthday, April 11th, I went in there, and I just sat down and waited. He was like, oh, he'll be back in an hour, and I just waited. And then he came in, and he was like, okay, come back tomorrow, and we'll fill out some paperwork. So I came back, and you did paperwork, and it's like, cool, this is a great experience. I'm kind of in radio now, and it was back then the training wasn't like a real formal training. It was weird because they basically had this. I was doing overnight shift, which is overnights is really kind of not rated market. So they said they had me and this guy whose name was Johnny Glaze, and he was real cool, and he had me sit in and shadow him. And then the next day, I came in and he just left the room. He was like, okay, it's your show. And I was like, well, what, you did this and then the radio and then that. And he was like, oh, you'll get it. And it was so much to do. Play this up, play that down, play that CD, do this, do that. And it was like, and people were calling up like, you are terrible. But I took that as an opportunity. I said, well, this is great. How can I be the best at this? Because this is what I want to do. And so I didn't listen to those people who were calling up saying you are terrible. I didn't let that bother me. I said, well, okay, well, I knew to learn from my mistakes, and I knew tomorrow, that it wouldn't be as bad as it was today. And then eventually it got to a point where I was doing overnights, and then I moved to the morning show, and I really started coming up, and at that time, I moved to Kansas City so I could get married, but I was still in radio, so I switched jobs. I got on at Magic, same thing. There was a guy, Greg Love, at a radio station there. I had to hound. I walked up on him outside the mortgage place. He was like, hey, can I get a job? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I sent you my stuff. I haven't heard anything. He was like, come down tomorrow. We'll talk paperwork. So I did that. And I got on Magic, and I was producing Tom Joyner in the morning in his show, which was really cool, and learning that, and kind of how syndicated morning shows and stuff like that goes, and coordinating back and forth with Tom Joyner on customizing to the Kansas City market. But in that role, I also produced a couple of public service shows on Magic 107.3, which deal with the community. One of those shows, when I first came in, was a show by activists here named Ron McMillan, and he's featured actually in the film, and really a very giving gentleman, and he had a show on Magic called What's Going On with Ron McMillan, basically, and what he would do was, for an hour, highlight what's going on in the community. And at this time, I would come in and he would have certain activists on, or he would have parents who had lost a loved one to homicide. And I said, well, and then I started in the back of my brain saying, wow, there are a lot of social issues going on in Kansas City, And at that same time, I decided to go back to school for filmmaking. I found out that Alabama University had a film program. So I went back to school to get a degree in film, at the same time producing Tom Joyner. So my day was, for 3 years, I would get up at 3 in the morning, be at the station at 4 in the morning, do Tom Joyner, get off the air at 9 in the morning, go to Avila, take classes till maybe 2, go back to the station, to do some production from 2 to 5, and it was crazy, but I was so passionate about that it was something I wanted to do that I did. My first semester I took like 17 hours and had a 4.0. But at that time, through doing these public service shows, I knew that I had a gift, to use what I was going to school for to help people, So I was in Magic 107.3, and I was working with Alonzo Washington. He's an activist who helped break the Precious Dough case, and we did this thing on the radio called "His Hip to Good Tips," and he too opened my eyes to what was going on in Kansas City. And so what I did was basically with a video camera like the one this gentleman has back here, DVX 100, and 3 years under my belt of how to make films, the technical aspect of it, and it's studying my curriculum and then going above and beyond to the library, looking at books, reading film theory. I was able to pull off for very inexpensively this film, I guess it's motion picture film, at such a high quality. And so what you're about to see, it changes or different looks at the beginning and different looks at the end, because too I was experimenting. I was learning kind of as I went. But I knew that if I was there, if I were able to capture reality, if I were able to tell these people's story, that someday I can present this in a form like this and really inspire people to bring about a change. So what I wanted to do when I put this film out, Kansas City Murder Factory Act 1, was peel back the layers to homicide in Kansas City. Really look at how a lot of social issues combine to create this problem. And it's a really deep film. There's poetry in it, but I wanted the poetry segments to be the only entertainment in this piece. It makes you think. This film is not edited like you would, like if it were on BET or MTV or another 48 or anything like that. I'm not telling you what to think. The style that I shot this film is called a direct cinema style, and it was created by a director that I had the chance to workshop with called Albert Maisels. And the whole style of it is more observational, meaning letting the story, letting the people speak for themselves. And that's what's so powerful in this film, because there are certain scenes where, Walter Cronkite could come in and say, as this is happening or as that's happening, it doesn't have the same power as the camera being there and watching the action unfold in front of your eyes. So we can get started on the film afterwards. I'll take some comments, but I did want to say this in case all of you can't stick around for the entire film. Please don't just watch this film and say and not do anything with it. Let it go in one ear and go out the other. Even if I made this entire film when I was unemployed. But yet I was able to gather resources, and it just shows the power of one individual. And everything in this room was one person's idea. And never let the fact of you don't have something, I don't have the $1,000 camera, or I don't have this, stop you from doing something that you feel that you can do, that you can make a change, because you can make a change. I showed this film at UMKC, and one of the last week, and one of the detectives on the panel said, because of this film, we've changed how we deal with families. How it relates to informing them with the homicide cases of a loved one. You know, so that's incredible, you know, to think that one person can change the system. And you have the power to do that, you know, just if just going online and writing a review about the film, if you liked it or if you didn't like it, you know, or telling people, hey, this is a huge problem in Kansas City, or saying, well, that's a great organization, how can I get involved? You know, or my brother, he's in construction, you know, how can I get him involved with these people who are trying to bring up the city and make a difference? So, like I said, thank you again for coming out. I hope you get something for the film. The whole purpose of this film is to bring attention to these cases, to give these families justice in a sense. Of course, they can never bring, will never be able to bring their loved ones back, but really, as far as giving them closure, you know, and helping solve these cases, you know, it helps a little bit with that. For the simple fact of, if a case is open, then the police department they don't have to give you any information about the case. They don't have to let you know what caliber gunshot your son or daughter was killed with, you know, none of those facts, you know. And so imagine, for instance, my mother died some years ago. You know, she wasn't murdered, you know, but you know, I'm able to get the coroner's certificate. You know, I know all the circumstances beyond that, you know. But these families go years, you know, without knowing that, you know. And so hopefully by using film as this social justice medium tool, you know, that someone who maybe knew something about the case 5 years ago will have the courage to come forward now. But when we showed it at the Kansas International Film Festival, we sold out the festival, and we had a really good audience response, which was what we wanted. And it wasn't perfect. I went back and I tweaked some stuff. I cut the film down, and it's a better film because of that. Please tell everybody about the project and about the film. And it's our hope that, you know, we'll get the DVD into the right person's hand at the right time, you know. So thank you.
No problem, brother. Once again, my brother,
we always ask a few people to tell us what you're going to take away. What are you going to take away from tonight? What did you learn? What did you hear? What's the pearl? What's the nugget you're going to take away? So I'm going to ask this young man here with the red jacket on, whom I don't know.
My name is John. I'm a full-time student here studying economics, and I think the most important thing that I take away from the presentation is that it's people, you know, no matter what color or who you are, where you're from or whatever. And the saddest thing is that, you know what I'm saying, it's not worth somebody's life though. Life is already short enough with everything else that we have going on, and then just to have, you know, somebody come and take it from you, that's not right. I don't think that should ever be called for.
Wonderful, thank you.
All right, my name is Rollen, and I guess it would be to be more involved, because ultimately that could make a difference, I guess.
My name is Eduardo Ramirez, and I'm going to take away many things. I didn't know that was a director cinema shop. That was pretty good. I didn't know about that. And the power of one, don't underestimate ourselves. We gotta, you know, he could do it, so we can help him out, and we can do, you know, something better.
Wonderful, wonderful.
My name is Maya Thomas, and one thing that I got about from the video is life is temporary, and to enjoy every day and every moment on this earth, because you just never know when is your last day, or somebody that you disrespected or don't like or called out their name or talked about them, you never know, it might be their last day. So basically to cherish every moment, and if somebody that you argue with every day, go back and apologize. Tell them that you love them and that you're sorry, and try to work everything out.
All right, did you
you have something you want to share?
I didn't really get the mic or anything like that, but my name is KC, and I actually grew up in basically doing all that. And you know what? Really on the streets, you really don't look at your enemy, your foe, whatever you want to call them, and carrying on as being a real person. But I think the thing that touched me the greatest was seeing the little girl's expression as the last part of the casket closed, and she turned around and looked, and that imagery of, I was going, just rolling it over in my mind, who allowed her to be up there to see that to be the last image that she would see of her mother? And that kind of personalized the whole imagery of the movie and saying, those are people that we lay down, those are people that we hurt, and you know what, there ain't no coming back after that casket drops. So, you know what, I think that was really powerful.
It meant a lot to me because I lost, about 2 years ago, I lost 8 close friends, all to murder. So, like Maya had said, tomorrow's not promised, you know what I'm saying? You can get to it with somebody today, and tomorrow be getting that call that they died, and then that's going to be on your conscience. So, make things right with the people while you can, and live life, because life's too short to be mad and going through all that unnecessary BS. Words from Jay Span.
Yeah, I know some people who write reviews.
Okay.
Where I go to movies.
Okay.
And I may be able to tell them, to write a review too.
Yeah, you do that or do it yourself, man. I'd rather hear from you. I'd rather hear from you.
5 popcorn bags, everything. It was a great movie. I mean, it's not just a video. It's just something heartfelt, something that we need to see. It makes me, I guess, look differently at situations and like look differently at people in my community, instead of, judging them, on things they do. You could help them, have a different view to where they don't end up like some of the people that end up killing people from other families in this film, But yeah, that's what I took from it, I guess.
Aftermath of watching the movie, dope. 5 stars, and man, got 4 out of 5. I say 5 out of 5. There's some touching scenes in there. I think if y'all support this, you'll see it's not trumped up high. You don't have to pay $20 for a full DVD. It's only $10. Show support to this. We gotta support our own. We got to, and this is important because this can affect everybody in the city. So we gotta be more smart and support this.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. Website, murderdocumentary.com, Kansas City Murder Factory, Act 1. And log on to the website. You get information on where you can buy the film. You can look at clips, behind the scene footage, all that on our website. And thank you guys for having me. Kansas City, Kansas Community College.
KCK, baby. The ones that didn't come, you missed a good film, but you still can catch it on the website. So support the cause. And like I say all the time, our indifference would be the difference between life and death. I choose life. Peace.
One of the things I was listening for as we were talking earlier about what needs to be done, it's like everybody was kind of struggling with that same question. But I did hear some things as I listened to the gentleman of the round table talking about teaching them to be responsible for their life choices. People talking about the circle of support that is needed in the home and in the community and in the different places that people go. And I thought that was interesting because as I listened to the gentleman of the round table, I listened to Alvin Brooks and others, I said that's sort of what we've done here even with FBOE when he said everybody needs a place where they live.
Yeah.
They need something that they're connected to and affiliated with. And I thought for many of the gentlemen that even come here, that's it. Thursday, they look forward to it, like going to Weight Watchers and AA and Wednesday night prayer meeting and Saturday choir rehearsal. The things they look forward to is something to look forward to. So how do we create that? When they talked about the Boys and Girls Club closing, and so at 6 o'clock, if it closed at 6:05, that's when the mayhem. was going to begin. How do we keep creating positive outlet so that our young men find creative things to do and we find ways to channel their energy so that they come up with that power of one and they understand they can be empowered to take their gifts and their talents and turn it into something positive, something constructive, and something meaningful for the community. And so that's what I'm going to take away. I'm always looking for what we're going to do. So I really enjoyed it.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you. I enjoyed being here, and thank you for having me. And I hope the film can raise a level of consciousness and really, with the film, I didn't want to tell the viewer what to think.
That's right.
And so when you look at a lot of, and a lot of times in the film, I end on questions. Double meanings, or what does that mean? And when you rewatch the film, you pick up something that you didn't catch the first time, or you look at something you look at it differently, you look at the angle differently, in a lot of the scenes, and that was kind of the beauty of constructing the piece. So thank you for having me.